morning from beautiful Boulder, Colorado, at Whispers North America headquarters. Today, we're going to talk about driving engagements, driving faster payments, and how to boost payment activity with pay by text functionality. Let's jump right into it with introductions. My name is Chris Linger, and I am the Director of Channel and Partnership for Whisper in the Americas. I live in beautiful Colorado. Turn it over to my colleagues and distinguished guests from everywhere today. Brian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Very excited to be here today with the Whisper team to take you all through this new pay by text functionality. My name is Brian Godla. I'm our Director of Business Development at Everywhere. I'm local here in Colorado as well. I live about 30 minutes away in Denver.
Hi, it's great being here. Thanks, Chris, for having us. I'm looking forward to the relationship. My name's John Tulvey. I am our Director of Strategic Partnerships at Everywhere. So I work with companies like Whisper to help grow revenue and kind of get things moving in the text-to-pay world. I'm actually from the South. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I did grow up here in Colorado, though, so it is nice to come back home and, be around the mountains.
So we have a strong Colorado connection. One question for you, John. How are you dealing with the weather? A little bit colder here versus Atlanta?
It is definitely a little bit colder here than it is in Atlanta. So we did have like a week straight of rain in Atlanta. So the snow is kind of nice compared to just constant cold rain.
Cool. So while we jump into the content we're going to be covering today, it's really 4 key areas. I'm going to cover the power of SMS and how to reach out to your customers via SMS and have some cool statistics associated with that. We're going to jump into leveraging SMS and payment processing, something that Everywhere is very experienced in, very knowledgeable in, and then how pay by text functionality works, and then more importantly, how can businesses, regardless of the size, use pay by text functionality to drive engagement, increase the revenue, and bring in the revenue and payments faster. A little bit about Whisper. Whisper is an omni-channel communications company. We were actually founded in Australia in 2001. Been in the States for about 5 years, and as I mentioned, my role is to grow the partnerships with companies like Everywhere. We're an omni-channel communications company, and so you can get on our platform, curate the message once, have it go out in an email, social, and SMS. SMS has been our most popular channel in the States, and that's what we're going to focus on today, and specifically pay by text functionality. Brian, could you give a little bit overview of Everywhere?
Absolutely, yeah. So Everywhere is a payments and communications platform. Been around for about 5 years now. We are located, our headquarters in the Silicon Hills of Austin, Texas, where the majority of our company is located now. Really, when you think about us, we are a payment processor for the mobile age. So we provide everything that a traditional payment processor can provide, whether that be terminals in stores, a gateway online, the ability to accept payments on a website. But really our flagship product that people know us for is our pay by text and the ability to collect invoices via text message, two-way messaging, obviously, like what Whisper does, and allowing companies like Whisper, other software companies to monetize payments, and for merchants, make it easier for them to accept payments.
A little bit about the partnership and how John and Brian got here today. We had several clients in the retail space and in the nonprofit space. They love our technology and what we could do on driving engagement with our dynamic distribution lists and segmenting and targeting their stakeholders. But one functionality that we didn't have, and I'll go into more detail on this in a little bit in the nonprofit use cases, either donate by text or pay by text. And that's when we started researching and came across Everywhere. Had a call with Larry Talley, the CEO, and his team, and within the first 15 minutes, I knew there was a great fit, great opportunity for partnership. Everywhere is very well respected in the space, and we opted not to go with the 800-pound gorilla in the room, but a company that fit with us from a value standpoint that we could grow with. And then you have the Whisper functionality with standard SMS and rich text combined with the pay by text functionality, a ton of synergies that can really help both businesses and nonprofit organizations. So that's how we came together today. The power of SMS. 98% of SMSs are open within the first 3 minutes. Very strong open rate. I know I looked at my personal email this morning. I have 36,000 unread personal emails. My work is a much different story. very responsive to work, but personal side, people just get fatigued. They're not gonna look at it. I don't even put them in folders anymore. So SMS, that's the way if you want to get my attention or everybody in this room, their attention is hit them up with SMS. That's why it's such a popular channel. And then everybody has smartphones. I have 7 of them in my house. Maybe I shouldn't admit it. My 10-year-old has a smartphone. So 82% of the population has a smartphone. And then 40% of online transactions today are done on a smartphone versus a desktop or even a laptop. So the trend is, leaning towards SMS, mobile technology, and one thing with the Whisper platform, it's optimized to look like an application on the platform, or on the phone, not something you have to download from the App Store or the Android store, but it looks like an application. It's optimized for mobile functionality, which is why we're here today. Brian, I'm going to let you talk about your experience specific with payments by text, and then next year, I know we have a little bit more detail. We'll walk you through what it looks like. But Brian, can you talk a little bit about your experience and how companies are getting paid up to 85% faster?
100%. So I think the point you made about personal email is so important, right? We all know how saturated that is these days. And if you're sending somebody an invoice via email, your bill, whatever it's for, good chance they're going to miss that one, right? I mean, when we look at the statistics today, iMessage is the #1 used app on iOS. Google Messages is the #1 used app on Android. So the concept is to make it as easy as possible for the consumer. They get one link via text. They click on the link. They put in their credit card information. They do a double tap Face ID for Apple Pay, and that's it, right? So, and ultimately, if you're making that easier for the consumer to pay, then the business is going to get paid faster. They're going to get more of those outstanding invoices just in a quicker fashion.
Great, thanks, Brian. And then talk a little bit about our combined platforms. As I indicated earlier, Whisper has a dynamic distribution list, which enables us to personalize our message to cohorts in a specific group. So, one example is in a nonprofit I'm going to talk about in a little bit. You can target high donors within that organization that have donated significant amounts of money earlier, and maybe tweak or customize the message. In addition, we have a large political campaign agency we work with. We sent out 10 million text messages in October alone. And in that, they customize the message based by region. So with our dynamic distribution list functionality, you can target cohorts in a specific region. So for example, the message might look a little bit different in New York versus where you're from, John, in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like you want to have regional specific messages. And that's one thing Whisper really brings with a dynamic distribution list. And then in addition, SMS can get interesting to get the messages out. So we have a customer success manager that works with our clients and our suppliers on the back end to make sure we craft the message, make sure you get high deliverability rate. So typically with our clients, we have over 90% deliverability within the SMS realm, which is huge. So we bring expertise into the space on how to craft and navigate the messaging to make sure it gets out the door, make sure it gets delivered to your customer, at the time you want it to be delivered as well. From a security standpoint, one of the other big partnerships that Whisper has in place is we're hosted and ran on the AWS cloud. That brings not only rock solid stability, but also security. We're SOC 2 compliant. And one of the reasons we reached out to Larry and Everywhere was the PCI compliant. Brian, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about Everyware's security posture and what you bring to bear there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are also hosted on AWS, which helps a ton. SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, PCI Level 1 compliant, which is the highest level of compliance that you can get in payment processing. And then we're also HIPAA compliant for any of the healthcare, pharmacy clients that we may have out there today.
Cool, very helpful. And then in aggregate, when you combine Whisper with Everywhere, we're really reducing the friction, not only from any engagement, marketing campaigns, customer sat surveys, but from the payment process in the end, reducing that friction, making it incredibly simple for your clients to pay you by text in a secure fashion. One client I want to talk about today, and this is actually the genesis for us, for Whisper getting in the pay by text world, is Best Buddies. They're a big charity, a global charity across the globe. They're a big client of ours. We worked with them to transition their outreach campaigns, their donation campaigns from email to SMS. So by doing that, they sent at the high point of the campaign, about 100,000 messages went out a month. And if we go to the next chart, please. Had amazing results. We were able to take advantage of Whisper's design studio. So one functionality of Whisper, you don't have to be technical to use the product. Non-technical resources can grab the branding from Best Buddies in, craft the message out, and get it out the door. So working with Best Buddies in a 6-month period, they're able to increase their donations to 4.68 million compared to the previous year in 2021, up 30%. Also, the click-through rates from an SMS was approaching 10%, which were phenomenal click-through rates. And then the conversion rate was about 2.8%, which is much higher than the industry standard. So this was, Best Buy was truly amazed on how Whisper was able to regionalize the messaging, as we talked about earlier, target high donors, and kind of craft the message unique to them as well. The one functionality after we got through the pain, we kind of did a lessons learned of the campaign, lessons learned on what we could improve upon. They asked, do you have functionality on donate by text? And that got the wheels cranking, and we didn't have that functionality. It's not something we wanted to invest in and develop our own. So that's when we reached out to the Everywhere team that has that functionality. So the next iteration of the Best Buddies partnership is to do the donate by text functionality. So all those numbers you just saw, that was SMS marketing only without the donate by text functionality. So a little bit how it works, and you kind of touched on this earlier, Brian, is they get a donation request, comes into their phone, it's customized. It's going to go to, hey, Brian, hey, John, thank you for supporting us in the past. Love for you to support us again. Please click on this link. And then they just put in the name and credit card information. And as you said earlier, John, they can just do Face ID to validate it's them, off to the races. In addition, can also do recurring payments via an ACH via the bank. So that's another functionality that Everywhere brings to bear that we absolutely love, keeps it simple. And of course, it's PCI and SOC 2 compliant, very secure, very safe. And we're getting a lot of really good conversations, especially coming after the political campaign, the election season last year. A lot of entities are reaching out to us, to inquire more about the pay by text, donate by text functionality for nonprofits. One other thing I'd like to mention regarding Best Buddies, we did a webinar specific with them. If you are a nonprofit and you are in charge of fundraising, it is a must see, and we'll include a link at the end of this deck for you to take a look at it. We did it in collaboration with Best Buddies. Absolutely a must if you're in the campaign fundraising space to see the results that we collectively yielded from our partnership with Best Buddies. Brian, I'm going to let you talk a little about the AR and billing space and what Everywhere has seen.
Yeah, so this is one of the most powerful parts of the Everywhere platform, and I think will be as well with this partnership here with Whisper. So looking at the screen now, we have a utility example up here. So think about paying your rent, think about paying your electric bill, gas, whatever it may be every month. Typically these days, the way that it works is you're either going to get some sort of paper statement in the mail, or you're not going to get an email reminder, and then you have to log into some sort of portal, put in all your information that may not be saved, and ultimately pay that. We all know if you don't pay that soon enough, a few months go by, suddenly your water meter, right? So again, trying to make it as easy as possible for that consumer to pay. This is also a great use case in healthcare as well. The amount of money that's spent on paper mailers, paper statements that are going out for people to ultimately send back a check or scan a QR code that then takes them to another portal that they have to log into to complete the payment. With the labor costs as well, it's really a ton, especially when we're looking at small medical practices, dental offices, who may not have the resources of some of the large scale hospitals. So what this is going to allow you to do in either a one-off or a bulk fashion. So let's say, for example, and this is what a lot of Everywhere healthcare clients do when they first come on, is go after their AR. So maybe they've got 3,000 accounts that need to be collected on. We can send that out in a bulk fashion all at once to all of those 3,000 patients who need to collect a copay. From there, if they don't pay the initial one, up to 4 automated reminders can be set up in a time increment of your choice maybe 2 days later for the first one, 7 days after that, something like that, to remind them to click on that link and ultimately pay that bill. So that's going to reduce the time the staff has to spend chasing down people to pay these bills, the amount of phone calls that they have to make. We all know taking credit cards over the phone is the absolute least secure way to do it. So definitely trying to eliminate that. But ultimately, when you're making it easier to pay, you're going to get more of those co-pays. In healthcare specific, billions and billions of dollars are written off every single year. So for a lot of these practices, that can truly just be free money they now have to use on new resources, whether that's giving benefits to staff, getting new equipment in the office, whatever it may be. And one big thing that I do want to mention on, just in regards to completing the payments in general that we haven't hit on yet, we've talked about going to the link and either doing a credit card or an ACH or a quick pay method like an Apple Pay or PayPal. But I want to make sure everybody knows this is actually my personal favorite feature of Everywhere is for any sort of repeat donor, patient, customer, whoever it may be, they only have to go to that link one time. We're then going to tokenize their payment method on file. And in the future, they're just going to get a text that says, hey, John, you received an invoice from ABC Clinic for your copay in the amount of $100. Please reply back, yes, use the card on file ending in 4357. He texts back the word yes. We can also set that up if you just want to make that like the number one, but they text back the word yes with the number one, the transaction automatically goes through. So from that standpoint, then you never ever have to leave your text messaging app. You're not going kicked out to a browser. It's all happening within SMS.
That's great. One thing I want to kind of piggyback on is the AR use case. That's where we're getting a lot of traction in our marketing efforts. In partnering with Whisper and Everywhere, it's a lot less expensive to send out a message at 3 cents a message versus having someone hiring a collections agency. That's going to be a lot more expensive, but that's going to add a lot of friction if you get a call from a collections agency versus doing it. And then, like you said, and especially the medical field, there's so much outstanding AR. It's like free money for these small businesses that are getting it, and it's very efficient. The ROI is there by leveraging Whisper and Everywhere to reach out in the AR world. Home services, John, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is one that has impacted me personally. I joke a lot. So I had my HVAC guy come out to the house and did a whole bunch of work on my furnace and my air conditioning unit. At the end, he wrote me a rather large bill on a piece of paper and said, I'll take a card payment. So I handed him my credit card. He went over to his van and started transitioning the numbers from my credit card onto this piece of paper that was just flapping in the wind that he then put in the van with him, and he drove off with my credit card number. And I was like, something about this just didn't.
Not very secure, right?
Yeah. So I, for like a week later, I kept checking to see if there was charges that I didn't know about. But really the best part about this is when you have a field services person come out to your house, they don't have to be concerned with the payment or the security. The owners of the business don't have to worry about it. They simply tell the home office, all right, it's completed, it's $500. I get a text that minute and it says to pay, boom, 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 I hit pay. The gentleman can get back in his van. He doesn't have my credit card information. He goes back home. And because I use the same HVAC company, it's like Brian was saying, the next bills, all I have to do is hit yes. So I can be inside on a conference call and he can get done. I can get the text saying he's done. I hit yes, and I don't even have to go and deal with anything like that. So for the consumer, it's great because of how convenient it is when you're dealing with field service people, because that area and that industry has been lacking security for so long. And it's like you said, you call up and give them your number, your card number over the phone, or they write it on a piece of paper on an invoice, and then the invoice gets into a file somewhere. Where this is all now kept within our universe, and it is so easy and so much more secure to get these payments completed and done, and it's great. And now if somebody comes to the house and they don't give me that ability, I know it's probably not somebody I want to do business with. There's just so much risk to it.
No, very helpful. And one other point I was going to ask you to confirm, when somebody in field services takes your card, typically for that business, it's a higher transaction fee,
Yes.
Right? Like approaching 3.5%.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What we're offering, 3%.
Yes.
That's another key piece.
Yeah, highest rate, least secure.
Yeah, that's not a good combination. That's not a good combination.
If you're a business owner, not what you're looking
My wife's gonna kill me, but I have a similar story. We had a pest control problem. We had some mice in our house. Spent more money than I'd like to admit to have them come out, but same thing. He took my card information, it was writing on the van. And this is before our partnership with Everywhere. I didn't think much about it, but now to your point, I wouldn't do business with that company anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's not secure, my information is out there, and then that business is also losing money because the higher transaction fee we just talked about also.
Yeah, and one thing with it too, they also have to do a lot more through their background checks for their employees. There's a lot of just ancillary costs that they don't think about always until they realize, okay, I don't have to worry as much about Brian getting a credit card. Because he's not going to be touching any of that stuff.
Yes. Specifically about that in regards to risk, you don't ever want to believe that one of your employees would do something like this, but if the credit card information is written down on a piece of paper, unfortunately, you never really know what's going to happen.
And that's another great point that ties back into nonprofit and churches. Like, you don't want to admit, but there's a lot of fraud in nonprofits and churches, especially cash donations or checks. By using donate and pay by text to functionality that's secure in that arena as well, it reduces the opportunity for fraud. So another very key critical point. So just want to thank you, John and Brian, for coming out today, and thank you, audience, for taking a moment to spend with us to learn more about pay by text and the functionality between Whisper and engagement, and then reducing the friction with your customer sets, and really with the functionality that we provide together, it's going to drive real business results. You're going to have high customer sat, and you're going to get paid faster, up to 85%, as we referenced earlier. So once again, appreciate your time and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.